Good afternoon. My name is Thanasi Andrianos, and welcome to the Dog Press Day press conference. I will be moderating a discussion with Channing Tatum, co-director and star of the new movie Dog, and Reid Carolin, co-director and writer of the new movie Dog. I will begin by asking some questions of my own and then move over to questions submitted by the press. The press is encouraged to submit questions via the Dog Q&A chat feature. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
Doing good, man. How was that intro?
It was great.
Great.
Yeah. We're the star.
Yeah.
No notes.
Nope.
Okay, let's jump right in. So I have another monitor over here, which I will be asking some questions, and the press will be submitting questions.
Cool.
So there's a bit of an odd couple buddy road trip aspect that's funny and heartfelt in Dog. How would you describe Briggs and Lulu's dynamic?
It's sort of like Paper Moon.
Yeah.
She's like my daughter. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. Our dynamic is pretty simple. Like in the beginning, Briggs really, this is not his dog, and he is a little bit put out that he even has to do this to get the recommendation that he feels like he overly qualifies for all the experience that he's put in as far as his career goes, and but he decides that he has to do it. It's his only real option, and then any good guy that's going on a road trip wants it to be fun, and he is trying to have as much fun as possible, and to his chagrin, Lulu is just kind of becoming an issue at every stop of the way.
That was great, man. And Channing, there are several dogs who play Lulu in the film. I think I've met them all now, but can you talk about all the training you did with the dogs and the work that went into it? And maybe you can even set up the breed of dog and their temperament and what kind of work they do.
Yeah, Belgian Malinois are primarily, and Dutch Shepherds, which they're basically the same dog, they're just different colors. They are primarily the work dogs in these high level multi-purpose canine spots. For all the teams like Navy SEALs, Rangers, Special Forces. On any of the teams, these are like the ultimate tool. And if you've not been around them, they are different animals. They are not your normal dog. It's hard to describe it. Like their minds work so fast. I liken it to when a cat sort of sleeps all day and then does like something so fast that you can't even quite understand how they just did it so fast. Like you're just like, what just happened? And because they're a cat can move really fast. Their mind works really fast when it wants to. These dogs are like that 100% of the time. They're switched on. They're hyper work. They love working. They love they want to constantly be doing something. They'll like almost like a shark, sort of just like pace and just be like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? I own a Dutch Shepherd now, and she is very much the same. You can't go to the bathroom without her being like, I'm coming with you. This is what we're doing. And so I would never want to do a movie ever without doing it with one of these dogs. Like if I get like later in my life offered a movie to do a part that has a dog, I'm probably gonna say no. Like these dogs are really specifically set up to want to do this job. They never got tired. They never didn't want to do a stunt. They were just ready to rock the whole time. And I've worked on other movies and had little moments with other animals that, other than horses, like horses are generally amazing to work with. But dogs and cats, nah. These are the only dogs I'll work with.
That was great, man. And what kind of training?
I guess I didn't set up the three dogs. So we used three dogs. Lana 5 was our smallest. Britta, which was our middle, and Zuza, which was our biggest dog. But Britta, our middle dog, was kind of our hero dog. She did a lot of the acting. Zuza does a lot of the wild stuff. We taught her some of the really bucking, kind of crazy pulling on the leash and wild things. Lana was really the only one that would lay on her side and lay down. These dogs generally don't love to lay down and do things like that. So they all were kind of really specific for how we used them. And I bonded probably the most with Britta because I had most of the really close acting with her.
That was great, man. And Reid, there's humor, there's heart, there's action, there's a cute dog in the film. What do you hope audiences experience when they see this movie?
Well, I honestly, I hope they have a great time at the movie theater. Like, I just feel like I hope people laugh a lot. I hope people stay engaged with the film, and they're going to take from it whatever they take from it. But I hope they get a window into a world of people and animals that we rarely ever get to see. This community of special operations soldiers, canine handlers specifically, and their dogs really gifted us incredible access to their culture. They started gifting that to us in a documentary that we did with them for HBO called War Dog. This was a handful of years ago, and that story kind of continued. Our friendships with them continued into this movie, and those guys were on set with us for a lot of the movie. They're with us now doing press. Their dogs are always around. And I hope people get to see how extraordinary they are and how incredible the bonds between these soldiers and these animals are, and really how thin the line is between animal and human.
That was great, man. And that documentary is fantastic. I've seen it. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Thanks.
So moving on to questions from the press. Rebecca Murray from Showbiz Junkies asks, what did you have to do to make sure you nailed it when it came to portraying the bond between handler and dog?
Technically, I never am. I'm not a handler in the movie, right?
Yeah.
So like I wasn't really focused on becoming or being a handler because Briggs, my character, doesn't know how to be a handler. He's watched his buddy in his unit work with Lulu, so he gets a little bit of it. But these dogs they're very specific. Each dog, not only are they specifically trained, but they're also just individual animals. One dog is not like the next, and so he wouldn't know all of her ticks. He wouldn't know all of her things, her commands, and whatnot. He knows what they're capable of. I think these dogs are often some of the highest ranked soldiers in a unit. They're very, 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 very special, and really put on a pedestal as such. When one of them gets hurt, they're a soldier. They're not just a dog. And so I didn't really focus too much on the handling, but I've had dogs my whole life, and this whole movie kind of was, I guess the inspiration or the theme of the movie came from an experience I had with my dog, my first dog. Again, like I had dogs my whole life, but Lulu was my dog that I raised from like 6 months or 6 weeks old. I mean, she was just a little tiny ball of fur, and grew into a big, strong Catahoula pit bull mix, and she lived about 11 years. She got sick, took her on a road trip in some of her last days, and made some really profound sort of lessons, in those last days with her, of just like surrendering and acceptance. And came back and told my buddy about the trip, and we kind of started talking about the story, and we played around with that actual story of the sort of bucket list trip of a dog and his owner or his buddy. And it just was a little too sad. It wasn't really emblematic of like me and my Lulu's like life together. Our life was an adventure, and it was joyful and funny and hilarious and crazy at times. And that's the kind of story that we wanted to tell. So we went in this direction, and we had already done the documentary. So,
and I think one of the things I would add in terms of nailing the handler and dog relationship is one of the things we heard from all the guys in our film, our documentary, is that the dog became more than just a dog. It became a person, a soldier, a brother or a sister. It was not looked at as a dog inside that unit. And I hope that by the end of the story, both Jackson Briggs, our main character, and the audience feel that way about Lulu. And it's why we called the movie Dog. I mean, I think people look at the title and go, oh, it must have been you came up with in a marketing meeting or something like that, because it tested really well. And in truth, it's quite the opposite. It's about the way we clinically look at these animals. We label them just as animals. And over time, the more extraordinary, they become to us, the deeper we see them, the more they become just like us.
That was great, man. And Jenny, thank you for sharing that story and that inspiration, man. That was beautiful.
Totally.
So Allison Brown from Josh at the Movies asked Channing, what was your favorite part about pulling double duty as both director, co-director, and lead actor?
My favorite part?
What was great about it?
I mean, it's tough to say what's favorite. When you're in the middle of like the throes of trying to like make a movie, it's chaos. You don't know if you're doing anything right. Just being an actor alone, you never leave a scene going, nailed that one. Like you never ever have that feeling. I don't care what scene it is. And so that is part of it. I think the directing of it was, I really enjoyed the setting it up more than the actual like experience of directing, because I think I was directing the dog more and Reid was directing me. And we just didn't have any time. No one has enough time on a movie. So enjoyment is a really tough word there, but fulfilling. It was definitely fulfilling of like, I can say I scratched that itch and tried to direct a movie. And if I ever do it again, I definitely won't be in the movie. Editing, I did not like. There was no enjoyment in editing. I should never edit myself, period. Which I found out that was mentally an unhealthy thing for me.
So Rose Pachetti from St. Anthony Messenger is asking, this is so much more than a comedy. How did you tap into the PTSD dimension of the character and how much Lulu meant to the character?
You want to do the PTSD part?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think really for us the intention was just to be honest and to portray the experiences of the characters who really inspired us to make the movie, and to look at that culture and put a lens on it without much of a filter. So for us, not all PTSD is created equal. It's a sort of umbrella term to describe a lot of different things, a lot of different experiences, a lot of different people. And I don't feel like we have any opinions on, what PTSD is, or that we're experts on it, or really, have the authority to comment on it. I think what we saw is that when a lot of these guys who gave us access to their lives came home from war and transitioned out of the military and out of that tribe of guys where they had a lot of meaning to this new life, being a civilian, where you have a completely different set of rules, completely different meaning. In many respects, you just don't, some respects, you barely have any meaning at all. You might not have a family, or you might not have a job, or whatever, and you have to rebuild something. Their dogs were essential elements to helping them make that transition, helping them heal, helping them feel like they had meaning and community and love. And so we wanted to show that aspect of a character's journey of transitioning from one life to the next, carrying these memories or these scars, wounds, whatever you'd like to call them, and how you integrate that into a new life. And the dog's really just like the kind of vessel that helps you do that with grace.
And one of the things I think it doesn't get looked over, but I think people more focus on, the PTSD part, was that Briggs not only was, I'm sure, dealing with some degree of PTSD, but he was really dealing with a TBI. A TBI is a traumatic brain injury, and like that, that's what washed him out of the military. But what we learned was like almost everyone in the teams, and whether you're a ranger or whatever you are, if you're a high level operator, basically everybody's working hurt. Every single person has an issue, if not a TBI. It's just his was on paper and bad enough that it got, it went up into the ranks that, they knew about it. One of the Rangers was telling us that every single time that, I forget what I don't know if it's the javelin or I don't know what it is, the javelin, but every time you shoot this thing, like you essentially almost get a concussion. And like it's intense. And now that the military has like put a restriction on how many you can even fire within a month or something, and they're like, what are you talking about? When we're training, we're firing those like 4 a day, much less 4 a month. And so it's one of those things that it's just everybody's dealing with it. It's just who's is worse and who's gets reported and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
There was a second part of that question. It was the PTSD and then.
And yeah, how did you tap into the PTSD dimension of the character and how much Lulu meant to the character?
Yeah, so the Lulu bit, I think, Briggs really kind of gets incepted with caring about her. I think he doesn't care about her in the beginning, and slowly he just finds himself trying like harder and harder to like make this dog happier, to try and like keep her out of trouble, keep him out of trouble, like just do the job. It starts just wanting to do the job, and then it's like wanting maybe her to have a good last like few days, on this planet, and she was a soldier just like him, and this is just kind of what happens, and he softens, and ultimately we played around with this idea. We weren't using it as like some complete hard and fast rule, but we definitely liked, I enjoyed looking at every scene, and could you take the dog out and could he just be talking to himself, in some of those, because she's just a mirror essentially. And so the more he cares about the dog and is wanting a new life for this dog and wanting the dog to have a chance, he kind of almost inadvertently sort of does that for himself.
Yeah, and I would add like one other thing, which is that I think most movies, if you kind of break them down to their essential elements, and this is a broad generalization, but they're mostly journeys about characters who go from closed to open, Yeah. And what we found with these dogs is in a community of people who are very closed off to the outside world, to press, to their emotional experiences. They need to shut those down because it's an essential element of their survival. The dogs had the ability to open them up. And so we knew it was a way to access these incredible people in a way that they're usually, we as a culture are usually denied that access.
That was all incredibly interesting. And what I personally liked about the movie was that it felt like a rescue mission in a way, where it's like the dog is actually rescuing Briggs.
Yeah.
So that was fantastic.
They're kind of rescuing each other. It's and neither one of them know it.
Totally.
So Steve Norton from Screenfish asks, the admiration of the dogs by the military in this film is unbelievable. What is it about the dogs that make them such incredible team members?
Well, I mean, look, these dogs they don't stop. Like they are just unstoppable. I mean, you only get to that level of like, there's a lot of, most dogs wash out. Like they don't make it. Like either they don't like water, or they don't like flying in a helicopter, or they won't run into the house and do the job. They're very, there's infinite amount of things that can wash the dog out, and these dogs that make it, they are not to be trifled with. They are like ultimate. They're kind of superhuman. They can like see in the dark. They can smell someone that they can't see. They can follow like scent that no one can see or smell. It's crazy. And the dogs are fearless. And I think the soldiers just sort of admire it. They're just like they're the hardest people in this unit. Like they just are, and they're sometimes the first in. Like that. And I think they're also like really just admire, like, dog is just like, unleash me. Like, let me go and let me do my job. And, every single one of those soldiers, as soon as they let that dog go, they know that they're coming in hard after him.
Yeah.
And it's, it's kind of like any other soldier bond, it's just like, we're going to be standing next to each other or not at all. And that's, I think it's really that simple. I think it's the bond that I think a lot of even non-soldier, non-military have with their animals. They just have this bond that it's just like, all right, I'm going to die for you, sort of a feeling.
Unparalleled loyalty, unparalleled bravery.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, they epitomize the highest values of that culture.
Mm-hmm.
That was really great. So Jonathan Sim from Coming Soon asks, Channing, you've worked with Reid in the past on films like Magic Mike and 22 Jump Street. What was it like to adapt your partnership from producer-actor to co-directors?
It really wasn't all that different. I mean, we had been producing and writing and creating together for a really long time. I mean, even on like the Soderbergh movies and things like that, like or any of the movies that we produced together, he would always, like, you know, either I'd be in a scene or whatever, and he'd come over and be like, "Hey, I'm," you know, I'd be like, "What are you seeing?" You know, and he would tell me what he's seeing, and maybe give me an idea of something else to try. And so we were kind of working in this capacity for a while. And even when we would write together, you know, I'd read through the scenes, and, you know, we'd work material. So it wasn't all that different as far as like creating and listening to direction, but, you know, getting to choose how we see the scene, you know, getting to choose how we want to shoot it, coverage and things like that, you know, that's all new. And, you know, that's a process. I don't care if you're just working it out with your DP or your best friend. And yeah, we finished the movie, so it obviously worked.
When you've been arguing,
we didn't kill each other, so that was great.
When you've been arguing with someone for like 10 or 15 years, yeah, you know, you get really good at it.
Yeah, it's efficient arguing.
You figure out how to work with it and make it into something, and that's fun.
We have a term called muskrat. Like, when we're both arguing essentially
for the same thing, but in different ways.
Yeah, from different ways. We just start like circling. We just start like repeating the things that we just said.
Oh wait, but we're saying the same thing.
And we just go muskrat, and, like, you know, as soon as we've said what our point is, and we just go muskrat, and we pick one and we move on. We pick one direction and we go try it.
Yeah.
That was great. I'm going to start singing Muskrat with AJ because we kind of do the same thing. So Samantha Rank from Daily Caller is asking, what was your favorite scene from the movie, and what was the most challenging scene to film?
Man, the most challenging, I can do that one.
Yeah.
The most challenging by far was the scene in after the car breaks down,
that's what I was gonna say.
And like going into this like garage barn thing with all this, like, you know, farm equipment and stuff.
You were dying of hypothermia on that scene.
I've done a movie in the Highlands of Scotland, and I wasn't as cold as I was on these nights, that because you're in the desert and you're just wet and you're just soaking wet, and like for 14 hours. And, you know, we were almost not making the day. Each time you cut, you have to go, and they're like, all right, rolling, and you have to go over to a certain place, and they dump water on you, and it's because you need to be coming right in out of the rain, and that's a constant thing. And I was convulsively shaking, like I was worried, like just like jackhammering, and like I couldn't get out my lines, like it was gnarly, and to a point where I was like, is it gonna look like I'm crying or like I'm just like, what are you saying? And, like, you know, and it was nuts. And then finally we had to just like pull over this like heater fan thing and just blow it on me, and then weirdly wasn't too bad for sound. We should have been doing it since the beginning of the day.
No question.
Because it was raining and everything, so the sound was like a cacophony of crazy. So
that was by far the hardest day on set. And by the way, what was the other part of the question?
What was the most fun, or what was your favorite moment, or I guess?
Ooh, I really love the stuff with Kevin Nash. I don't know why. Like, we love really Kevin so much that to see him get to be a comedian and to get to bring out that side of him.
Yeah, he's one of the more
Jane
hilarious.
Adams were just like incredible in the movie.
I can't look at Kevin's face without laughing. Like, he's just so funny to me. That's another good one. Some of the sweetest stuff was us just like at the end of the movie in the desert, just like sort of sitting and being with Lulu on the. It was like the most feel good part of the movie for me.
Yeah,
my favorite line in the movie is God, I'm so glad we didn't have to kill those people, those nice people.
Yeah,
and it's like a really subtle line in the movie because you can't hear it all that well, but it's my favorite line in the movie.
That was a good one.
I'm so happy we didn't have to kill those nice people.
That was great. And, you know, one of my favorite scenes is when you're drinking a bottle of water and Lulu jumps out.
That's a great scene too. Yeah.
That was fun because we were losing the light, and everybody was saying, like, the ADs were going, you need to get out of here. There's no time. This is too complicated. We'll never get the dog to do this right. And we were with like a skeleton crew up in the woods in in Santa Cruz.
Yeah,
and
we were racing the rain too.
Yeah, we were racing the rain.
Yeah, the rain was coming.
And we were like, let's just give it a shot. Just set the camera up in the front, and hopefully we'll get. And I mean, first take, done.
very
Second
first
take,
take.
done.
It was wild,
amazing. Yeah, and it was really funny.
I'm so happy I still have my fingers from that one as well.
Yeah, so much.
She's like a rattlesnake. It was crazy.
It was
wham!
so hardcore.
Got it. And by the way, still to date, if you have like a plastic bottle anywhere around, like anytime Britta comes on set, everybody's got to like hide their bottles because she will snatch it. She's just like, I know this trick.
She'll see it.
She's just like, yeah. I get rewarded when I do this.
Yeah.
That was fantastic, guys. I think that's it. So I'll do a quick out. I mean, unless there's anything else that you guys want to discuss and share.
No, anything that anything that you guys want to bring up?
Yeah, I think we covered most of it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that wraps up the Dog Press Day press conference. I want to thank our guest, Channing Tatum, again, co-director and star of the new movie Dog, and Reid Carolin, co-director and writer of the new movie Dog, for joining us today. Congrats again. Congrats again on the film, guys. You know I really love it, and I really can't wait for the world to see it.
Thank you so
thanks
much.
again.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Right, guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.